It is the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Ian Rivers. Ian, another great day to be a Beaver. And why don't we start off? We got a lot to talk about today, Ian. We got soccer having a great weekend. Hockey on the men's and women's side both left a little to be desired, and football coming back. But first, why don't we start off in the realm of cross country and kick things off with our Beaver Banter Player of the Week, because this doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, we're going to go with junior Maggie McCarthy for this award this week because she won the Bob Waxlax invite, which is a mouthful in and of itself. But yeah, yep, that was in what, St. Cloud State, or it was in Sauk Rapids, hosted by St. Cloud State, right? So yeah, looks like she set a time of 14 minutes and 37 seconds. That breaks her personal record, which was 15:38 by about a minute, a little over a minute actually. So, congrats to her. It's not very often that we see cross country runners here actually winning invites. So that's pretty big news.
Right, and that's nothing to disparage the cross country program. It's just to say it's really hard because you're competing with a lot of different schools, a lot of different runners. It's sometimes hundreds of people at a meet. So, I'm not sure what the total size of this one was, but still, this is, it's a pretty good milestone. And by the way, for McCarthy, it's not just that she broke her previous record by a minute, but let's kind of look at this a little bit deeper. Her 4,000 meter personal best was in 2022, and that was at the Dragon Twilight, which is in Moorhead, which is a cool meet, but that's in Moorhead where it's flat and it's a little warmer, and you can kind of run pretty well. This one was in Sauk Rapids, which isn't hilly. It's just a little bit different, where you're not in the flatlands where everybody seems to run just a little bit faster. You shaved a minute off your time when you ran in the Dakotas, basically. I know it was in Moorhead, but you get my point, to running it in Sauk Rapids, which is a pretty big achievement. So congratulations to her.
Yeah, really good. As far as I can tell, there was more than 46 people in this meet. That's all the evidence that I have to go off of. I could do a little bit here, but that's the surface level information that I have is 46. So we'll see. Okay, here we go. 47 total runners at this meet, but hey, first out of 47, that's pretty good. And there was also 3 Beavers inside the top 10, Carol Miller and Nadia Vaughn finishing 8th and 9th, respectively, in this meet as well. So,
yeah, I mean, really great outing for everyone involved. So it's really cool. Not often we get to start the show with cross country. So when you got an opportunity to do it, I guess you do it.
You got to take it.
Yeah, you got to take it. Not to disparage cross country runners. My brother just is a big cross country guy, and I refuse to give him the time of day for it, just to mess with him. So nothing against you guys. You guys do a great job. Let's talk a little women's soccer, Ian, because they probably out of all the sports on campus this weekend probably had the best out of everybody for women's soccer. So let's just get a recap. What the heck happened?
Yeah, it was a good weekend. They shut out both teams this weekend, Northern State being the bigger one that was kind of up there in the playoffs, fighting for seeding with Bemidji State. Nothing in Aberdeen on Friday. Then they go down south, or no, I guess it would be up north a little bit, obviously, to MSU Moorhead and win 2-0 in Moorhead at Nemzik Field there. So a really good weekend for soccer yet again. Madeline Davey with the goal on Friday against Northern State, assisted by who else? Katrina Barthel. And then the 2 goals on Saturday came courtesy of Sylvie Waters and Madison Fertel. Fertel assisted on Waters' goal, and Maggie Kramer assisted on Fertel's goal. And that brings me a little bit of a segue into congratulating Maggie Kramer for her NSIC Defensive Player of the Week award. I believe that is her first NSIC Weekly Award. So congrats to her. 2 shutouts as a defender and an assist as well. So can't complain about that weekend. Beaver soccer is really rolling right now. That's a 5th straight win on the season. And there is a little bit of a pattern here, CJ. When the Beavers allow less than 2 goals in a game, they win.
They
Well, that's actually not true because the first 2 weeks in conference,
don't look at that. Don't look at that. More often than not.
When they score and allow less than 2 goals in a game, they win every time.
By the way, to go back to the Kramer news, according to BSUBeavers.com, she's from St. Michael, but she's the first freshman at BSU to be named NSIC Defensive Player of the Week since Tiffany Van Hoften in Ian, September 21st of what year?
I'm not sure, actually.
Take a guess.
2007.
Close. 2009.
2009.
15 years that a freshman at Bemidji State has been named NSIC Defensive Player of the Week. So there you go, Maggie. Congratulations on that one. But yeah, I mean, Bemidji State soccer, it feels like every single year around this time of the season, you kind of start to feel the team rounding into form. Are we seeing that again, Ian?
I think so. The defensive capabilities of this team are becoming very evident. They've allowed 1 goal in their last 5 games. Now they haven't played a gauntlet of a schedule, but even still, I mean, you have to play the teams in front of you, and they're doing it and they're dominating them. So it's working really well. They are currently sitting second in the NSIC with 18 points. They sit 4 points behind Minnesota State, who is at 22 in first place. But of course, Minnesota State still has a game in hand over the Beavers. So that's 3 points that you could make up. The Beavers still have their destiny in their own control. There's, I guess, in control of their own destiny is what I was trying to say there. Because if they beat Minnesota State later this season, they will get the game back eventually and win the conference. So if they keep winning, they're going to grab first place. But they've got some tough games coming up here. Minot State this weekend. Those are 2 teams that are not necessarily slouches. UMary sitting in third right now, at least a tie for third with Northern State, the other team that you beat this weekend. Minot State down a little bit lower, but we know they're always going to get up for a Beaver Battle, and we've gone head-to-head with them quite a few times over the last couple of seasons. Last year was pretty successful. The year before that, I think we split with them. Maybe we lost in the regular season, I think, and then we won because that's who we beat 2 years ago to win the NSIC tournament title in Mankato, I believe. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend. I would hope that we could get at least 4 points from it. And honestly, the way the team's playing right now, it wouldn't be out. They were going to get 6 points. Looking statistically at the conference, the Beavers, I mean, of course, that link doesn't work when you want to click on it. They've got to be up there. We talk about margin sometimes on this show. The Beavers are second in the conference in margin, which is just taking the divide, your goals for and your goals against. But it's more of an average rather than just a number. So the Beavers currently sit at 1.18, second in the conference behind Minnesota, 1.34. And if you look at UMary, they are currently fourth with a flat 1, and Minot State is in seventh with a 0.2 goal difference. So goals allowed, Bemidji State sits actually in fourth in the conference. UMary and Minot State both have a better defensive record than Bemidji State. They've both played 1 less game than Bemidji State, but Minot State has only allowed 5 goals. UMary has allowed 6 goals all season. Bemidji State has allowed 7. However, Minot State has only scored 7 goals on the season. So offensively, a little bit of a struggle for them through 10 games. That's not a record you want to see. Bemidji State
this year has been like a poor man's Beavers, right? They've been a poor man's Bemidji State Beavers or poor woman's Bemidji State Beavers this season. Right? The defense, it's good, but their offense isn't that good. You know what I mean? Where Bemidji State plays a lot of the same defensive, kind of style, but Bemidji State just does it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, you can play all the good defense you want, and that is why they have 9 points, because I'm sure they have quite a few 0-0 draws or 1-1 draws on their record. But Bemidji State has 20 goals, and they've allowed 7 this season. So offensively, Bemidji State is cruising this season. They are tied for the conference lead, or I'm sorry, no, one behind Concordia St. Paul. So they're tied for second with Minnesota State. But again, both of those teams have played one more game than Bemidji State. So if you were to do it on a goals per game average, which I guess we can do right here, there we go. Bemidji State is up at number 1 in the conference with 1.8 goals per game. So I'm really liking where this team is at right now. It's been very fun to watch them. I got a chance to watch a lot of the game on Sunday. That's probably the most I've caught this year of soccer games. It just doesn't work out well with Sundays and Fridays. That's the games are always at like 4 p.m. and it's like really hard for me to just like stop what I'm doing. If they were earlier in the day, it would be a lot easier, or if it was a little bit later in the day, it would be a lot easier. But you know what I mean? It's a little bit difficult. Now that we're getting towards the end of the season, I will definitely be setting aside a little bit more time to watch them every week, especially because now they're absolutely cruising. But yeah, only 1 goal allowed in their last 5 games. Like I said earlier, that's really good defensively. And they've also scored, let's see, I don't know, 9 goals. I think that's very quick math, maybe 10. I'm trying not to bog down the podcast too much with math.
By the way, to answer your question earlier, looking through Minot State's record, in the amount of games they've played this season, which is 10, 4 of them have ended in draws, and they've all been, I believe, 3 of them have been in NSIC play. So this is a team, I mean, they've had a draw against Augustana. They had a draw against St. Cloud State 1-1. If you look at the last 5 games of the schedule for Minot State, they've scored 4 goals in their last 5 games. They've also given up, though, only 3 goals, I believe, in their last 5. So, this is going to be a game that's probably going to end 1-0. The most least predictable 1-0 game of all time, if that's what
that's the typical Beaver Battle score that we would go over for the last couple seasons. Minot, I think, had a pretty down year last year compared to what we're used to seeing from them, but yeah, I remember a couple years ago we played that. I'm going to go back and look because I think we might have played them like 3 times, and it might have all been like 1-0 goals, game scripts. So yes, here we go. Tie 0-0. That was to kind of end off the regular season. Then we met them in the NSIC conference tournament, and it was another 0-0 tie that went to double overtime, and the Beavers scored 2. And that's probably because Minot State was like pressing, because obviously if they don't win that game, their season is over. So they were probably throwing bodies forward. It gave Bemidji State an easy counterattack. But yeah, that's a pretty typical score when you're looking at a Beaver Battle in the soccer realm. So I'm excited for this weekend. I think the Beavers have I think it's home games this weekend, right? Because they were just on the road.
Yeah, both of them are home.
Yep. Home Friday, Minot State, 5 p.m. What's that?
Second to last home weekend, by the way.
Yeah, it's coming down to it. There's only 7 games left. They are officially halfway done with the conference season already. It's a quick season for soccer, man. They do not play too many games, all things considered.
Yeah. So, like you talked about, Ian, 5 o'clock on Friday, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Those games are on the radio as well. You can find bsubeavers.com for more information on kind of how to watch and how to do all that stuff. You can also watch them on the NSIC app for free. You can have that on your phone, tablet, smart TV, all that good stuff, which has been really helpful for watching all these non-hockey sports, which is a real great tool to have. So shout out to the NSIC, and also shout out to them for making it free. So it's been really cool. All right. Looking around now, let's kind of go, let's go across now sports. I'm trying to see if what other areas we need to kind of patch up here. I think we can move right to football, Ian, and if we can, we might as well start by going around the NSIC.
Yeah, I can pull that up really quickly. I wasn't really thinking about around the NSIC, just wasn't a habit because the Beavers were off this weekend. But
I know, it messed everybody up. I didn't know what to do with my hands on Saturday. Like what am I supposed to do? There was no Bemidji State.
It was very odd just waiting around for the hockey game to start with nothing in front of it, especially with no snow on the ground. Because,
Right.
yeah, we're used to that, but not until January and February, and rather
Right.
than October. There's supposed to be football on, man. So, yeah, let's take a look here. Some of the scores from around the NSIC in Moorhead. They had another chance to beat a top team in this conference, but unfortunately came up a little bit short. 24-19, Minnesota State over Moorhead this weekend. Northern State, though, I put a tweet out there that said, "What the hell is the NSIC this season?"
No, I think you said
I
NCIS.
said NCIS, and I was the worst part about it is I proofread that tweet, and I'm like, "Wait, did I? Oh yeah, I'm good." And then I sent it anyways. But yeah, the NSIC.
Coach Gibbs has done this year, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Northern State upsetting Minnesota Duluth. Their second straight win or third straight win now. Second win over a pretty good team up north in Minnesota. That's a big win for Coach Hine and the program there. So congrats to them. 24-21 over Minnesota Duluth. Sioux Falls taking down Concordia St. Paul in Sioux Falls 35-21. Augustana over Minot in Minot 20-7. Winona State beating the crap out of you, Mary, 48-7 in Winona, and then Wayne State 41-7 over Southwest Minnesota State. My only other knowledge of that game was at halftime. Somebody put a tweet out that said Southwest playing pretty tough, even after some bad results against Wayne State at halftime. I think it was 14-7 at halftime, and Wayne kind of pulled away in that one. So, yeah, the standings page, I don't even want to look at it right now, man. It's got to be chaos. Yeah, it's just a jumbled mess. Minnesota State sitting atop with 5-1 record. Wayne State and Augustana at 4-1. Sioux Falls at 4-2. Bemidji and Winona at 3-2. 3-3 for Minot and Northern State. It's harder because you can't clump them all together anymore when you're reading all of this off because there's bye weeks now and it's not an even schedule. So in the past, you used to be able to say, yeah, these four teams are tied at 2-2. Now everybody's got a different record all the way through the season. So it makes it a lot harder. But Bemidji's still in shouting distance. And this season still isn't over. They have another test this weekend. Minot State 4-3 overall, 3-3. It's another double battle, I should say. Beaver Battle, football and soccer. Last week, it was a double Beaver Husky battle in men's and women's hockey. So we got a little bit of a unique double up experience here over the last couple weeks now with two different sports. But yeah, I think that this is another winnable game. I think most of them in the conference are going to be winnable games just because you see what this conference is doing to itself. But it's going to be very interesting to see the triple option come into town and see what the Bemidji defense can do with that, because I think if there is a strength on defense, it's the rushing defense for the Beavers. I don't have the stats pulled up right now, but our front seven has been one of the best in the conference so far this season. And I have to imagine that gives them a big benefit in playing a team that likes to run the ball 95% plus of the time. So I anything can happen in this conference, but it'll be very interesting to see how these two teams kind of match up.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating because as much as Bemidji State has had a big commitment to the run this season, it's nothing like what Minot State can do. And it just provides a fascinating thing you have to do on defense, right? You have to completely change everything you're doing on defense for this 1 week, for this one team. And not that it's on, obviously teams have done it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it does take up a lot of time, and it's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of just being patient and staying in your role. So it's a lot on the coaching staff of getting prepared and kind of knowing what they have to do. And then it's on the players for following through and just knowing that there's a chance that something weird can happen. And you can't get caught looking one way because they're going to go the other at some point. And it's fascinating with the triple option. Now, I still think Bemidji State wins this game. I think they win it pretty easily, but this is, if you count this one as a gimme game, which maybe some might not, but this might be the last one where you can confidently go, yeah, Bemidji State should have this one in hand pretty easily. After that, you go to Winona, you play Wayne State, you go to Moorhead, and you host Augustana at home. And, how good is Winona? How good are they really? How good is Moorhead? I don't know, but you got to go on the road for both. and your 2 home games are against 2 teams that want to be towards the top of the conference at the end of the season. There's a lot to parse through, but I think looking at Minot State specifically, the triple option's hard just because you have to spend a lot of time focusing on that specific thing and just completely changing everything you not normally do, but a lot of habits you kind of have to rewire your brain just to play this specific style of offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of focus. I'd have to imagine. It's not as if you're not focused during a normal game, but you have to just pay attention to where the ball is a lot more than you would as an edge rusher, say Marcus Hansen. I mean, he's got an extra job now of you've always kind of got to monitor whether or not the quarterback keeps the ball on a play action pass or not. But now it's like, okay, we're not only doing play action, but we're also doing play action option where now we're rolling out to the right and we can pitch it and we can dump it forward or we can throw it downfield. It's going to be very interesting to see what this defense can do to counter that Minot State offense. And I do agree. I think they should win this game. If they can get out to a hot start, Minot State has only thrown the ball 47 times this year. If you play clean in the first half and you get up to a 2 or 3 score lead at halftime, I really think that it's going to be difficult for Minot State to come back in this game, not only because they don't have a super explosive offense, but it's just hard because you are taking so much time running the ball and it keeps the clock moving.
Get a good drive. Like Bemidji State's going to make them slog down the field outside of getting a 60-yard run. They're going to have to burn clock.
Yeah, if you can, get up to a big lead and then limit the big plays, I think it should be a pretty straightforward win, like you're saying. I don't know. I don't know if I have as much confidence as you in this game, but I definitely do think it's a very winnable game, and I do think they will win it. But I honestly would be more confident against Winona State than I would be against this team, just because of the option offense, because I don't know what to expect from that and how Bemidji State can counter that. But I do think that it should be a winnable game for Bemidji State. I think they get back on track. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. They didn't have anything to do last week. That will be a big help. And guess what? They're also at home at the Chet. That will help as well. So get out to the Chet. It's at 1 p.m. on Saturday. You got plenty of time. There's no hockey this weekend, at least on the men's side. I actually don't remember if the women play this weekend or not. But, yeah, there's no hockey. I can't even say in Bemidji because I don't know if the women play at home or not. So
I'll look it up.
You'll look it up. We'll get you squared away on that. And but yeah, I mean, I don't have much of a preview for this game other than Minot State's passing defense has been the best in the conference in terms of yards per game so far. Whether or not that's a lot of teams just running the ball against them, they do have one of the lowest attempts.
There is hockey against, by the way, Lindenwood Friday and Saturday at the Sanford Center.
Okay, so they do play. Have a week off, that's right. But women are still in action this weekend. But yeah, Minot State's passing defense so far been the best in terms of averages on the season per game. Their pass offense has obviously been absolute worst because they just don't throw the ball. And then these are 2 of the top 4 rushing teams in the conference. Minot State, 245 yards per game. Bemidji State at 179. But the difference is the rush defenses. Bemidji State, second in the conference, 90 yards per game on the ground allowed. Minot State is 12th with 186 yards per game allowed on the ground. So Bemidji State should be able to get back to what they want to do, run the ball, ground and pound. I think it should be a win.
Well, and part of that, remember, too, Bemidji State has a good run defense. I'm not taking anything away from them there. But the other thing you got to look at, too, Bemidji State's been ahead in a lot of the second halves of games, or at least has had leads where that other team has maybe needed to pass a little bit more. So it's, again, Bemidji State getting up early. And not that Minot's going to start passing everywhere, but just the fact of this team has been used to getting up early and they're going to need to do that. Once again, like you said, if they get behind early, which is the flip side of things, then things get a little hairier. It's not that it's impossible, but if you get down, let's say 14-3 midway through the second quarter, it's tough because if their running game is going the way they want it to, 4 yards of play, they're going to grind you to dust. And that's kind of what they want to do in that situation. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Bemidji wins. Bemidji State comes away with this one We'll say 24-14.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. I think it's going to be 20 to, we'll go 20-10, Bemidji State over Minot State.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Roll Beavs, baby. All right, let's shift into the sports that, look, we want to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to say. Let's start things off with men's hockey. They didn't have the results we wanted, Ian. Home and home with St. Cloud State. They dropped both of them. Two close, hard-fought hockey games. But look, I think if you're going to be honest, I know what you're going to say, and I think it too. And I think if you were to poll all the players and the coaching staff, they let those two games get away.
Yeah. Friday night, a lot more than Saturday night. I thought both games. Friday, I mean, Bemidji dominated the game. I was there on the glass. I was watching it, dude. They were, for lack of a better term, they were kicking St. Cloud's ass, man. It was fun. It was awesome to see. And then it was just, I think all 4 goals in that game were just maybe the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, they give up another goal, this time with 0.6 seconds left in the first period. Like, that you just can't do that. You can't do that. That's the difference in the game here, because if you don't give that up, now your goal to answer in the second period is a go-ahead goal. Like, it's just, that changes the whole game. But yeah, you just can't do that. Carter Rancliffe then answered in the second period. He had a phenomenal weekend. That whole line did really well on Friday night, especially with Austin Jopi and the 2 transfers. Riley Funk from NMU played really well, as well as Carter Rancliffe. But yeah, that line was really good the whole weekend. I'd have to say they were the best forward line. But yeah, in terms of the second goal for St. Cloud State, I don't know why Luke Roloffs does not have an assist next to his name here for St. Cloud State. Luke Roloffs is a Bemidji State defenseman, however. Turned around, dumped the puck into the middle of the ice, and there's just a St. Cloud State player sitting wide open in the middle of the circle who is probably surprised that he just got the puck right to his stick and just fired it past Scholl. And then a couple minutes later, it's another turnover. I think it was Kirkland Irie that was taking the puck over into the neutral zone. He slipped or something, and it just created a little bit of a 2-on-1, and St. Cloud State's up 3-1, and it's like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, awesome. But Carter Rancliffe and Eric Martin scored like 34 seconds apart in that period to end off the second period and get all the momentum back for Bemidji. But again, I mean, it just was, you kept having to crawl back into the game because of these mistakes. And I mean, the last goal, Thor Bufflin, it was a great goal, right? He put a top shelf. It was a backhand shot. I think it was great. His first career goal. But I think, as Lucas said, he had about 100 years to shoot. There was nobody that came out and gave him any trouble. He walked straight at Matthias Scholl. Nobody came and picked him up. It was like practice out there, and you can't let that happen. I mean, that's what it was. Bemidji State had some good shots. They had some good chances at the end of the game to try to force overtime, but too little, too late. And it's kind of the same story Saturday. Saturday wasn't quite as close. It was actually a lot more closely contested. It was still a winnable game. I think the expected goals favored Bemidji State again in that game, but not by such a heavy margin. But guess what? Again, it came down to a couple mistakes, injuries. Kirkland Irie got hurt in that game, and that is a major developing storyline for the rest of the season and how long he might be out. I think he was in a sling after the game from what people could tell.
Not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal to have one of your best forwards. We'll see what happens with Kirkland, but again, it's just a little bit too late to start the comeback effort. I thought they played really well in the third period. Will Magnuson, I think, got his goal in the third period to pull it within one. Yeah. Or no, Will got his goal in the second period to tie it. Judding got a power play goal in the third period to tie it, which was good to see. The power play got a little bit rolling there, 25% on the night at least, but I think that's still their first power play goal of the season. So special teams needs a little work still, but you're playing NCHC opponents, and you got to win one of those games, man. It's a lot better than it was last year. I'll say that as a very positive thing. It's a lot better, but realistically, if you're looking at these games, if you don't give up a goal in the last 2 minutes to Minnesota Duluth, you win in regulation on the road against a ranked team. That looks great. And kind of the same thing here. I mean, you should be at least 2-1, and one of those wins should not come in overtime. I think it should be a lot better, but it could be a lot worse, I guess. Last year was much, much worse than this. We still have some chances to get some wins out of conference. I don't know if the conference is doing as bad as they were last season outside of the conference to kind of help the pairwise. We'll see. I don't think it's even updated yet because it's so early in the season. It would just look like a jumbled mess anyways. But yeah, disappointing to say the least, especially considering how well they played on Friday night. I think if they play like 20% of a cleaner game, they win that game easily. And I can be taunting as I leave Herb Brooks Center, shouting at all the St. Cloud State fans, and instead I've got to I was
your head down and walk out of the building.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few Bemidji State fans in that rink. I will give them credit for getting there. There's a Beaver fan sitting behind me. There's some Beaver fans sitting down the row from me. Most of them were trying to get towards the rink, so that was good to see. And honestly, I don't think they played super bad this weekend. The results weren't what you wanted to see, but if you do want to take a positive look at it, it wasn't that bad. I mean, there was some ugly mistakes, but outside of that, the team looked like they could compete with St. Cloud State. And that gives me hope for conference play this season, that at the very least, even if we can't get our way back to an at-large bid, that we can, be up there contending for a conference title again, and maybe stealing a win against Minnesota or stealing a win against North Dakota. And we still do have one more game against Minnesota Duluth coming up at the end of 2024. So an off weekend for them, and then we head to Big Rapids to play Ferris State. So
CCHA play already coming up. It's a nice little get a week off to kind of lick some wounds, especially with Irie, just to get some stuff figured out and see where you're at when you play Ferris State. Again, a nice, easy start into conference play, although as we kind of always hesitantly say when that team goes to play Ferris, we're always kind of on bated breath, it feels like.
Yeah, especially in Big Rapids. It's just season, you can make the excuse that we were shorthanded, because I do believe that came over the World Junior break. And we were injured as all be in the middle of the season there. So I guess getting a split with them last season on the road was actually kind of a decent result. And all things considered, you won the conference, so you did enough. But right. Yeah, hopefully we can start off strong. I'd love to see 5 or 6 points come out of that weekend. But I guess we can preview that a little bit more next week as we get closer to the game.
I had one last thing
Sure.
that I wanted to talk about from the game, and I didn't watch a ton of the game on Friday. I tried. I was at work. I just couldn't. I wasn't able to, but I was able to watch a lot of Saturday's game, and just it felt like on the offensive opportunities. Maybe I'm wrong, Ian, on this, because there was a lot that happened in that game. There was the controversial goal on the replay. There was, Bemidji State had their opportunities on the power play. I just felt like on offense for Bemidji State, it felt like there was just a lot of shooting it at the net and not necessarily getting like a concentrated good look. It's the same thing of like, I don't know if there's much of a translation to basketball, but it's like you got, 50 shots up in a game, but how much of them were high percentage shots? How many of them are you in rhythm, in step and shooting? Or is it like, you just kind of have it and you feel like you need to get it there? And look, getting it at the rim, getting it at the net isn't the worst thing in the world. I get it. Shoot it at the net, see what happens. It felt like Bemidji State didn't quite get the quality shot they were looking for, and they especially didn't really get the rebounds.
Yeah, I had somebody behind me on Friday night screaming at them because they were shooting from the blue line for the top corner every time. He's like, "Put the puck on the ice so we can get a rebound." It's like, well, every time we've done that, there's never been anybody in position to actually tap it into the net. But yeah, I've definitely seen that in the past. I It was harder for me to see like this weekend from the game itself, like whether or not I do think that sometimes, especially against better goaltenders, that yeah, maybe sometimes when you're playing a CCHA opponent that's down towards the bottom of the conference, some of these three-quarter and half chances that you just put at the net just for the sake of putting it at the net are going to work for you. But I remember particularly a couple of years ago, we played a game against Michigan Tech when Blake Pietl was like on the peak of his powers. And it's just like, yeah, you just throwing the puck at the net just for the sake of throwing it towards the net. It doesn't work as much as you want it to. And yes, I do wish that you could have gotten some more grade A chances. So I don't know necessarily this weekend if that is true or false necessarily, but I do think that in the past I have been thinking the exact same thing where it's just like, all right, it's good. You got a shot on net, but you kind of just threw it at him without a screen in the way, and you just put it right into his chest. He didn't even have to move. But
Right.
yeah, I can see it. I can definitely see it.
Okay, one other thing we should talk about that goal that they had to replay, or I believe it was it challenged? It wasn't challenged on Saturday night. You remember the goal I'm thinking of here?
Oh God, yeah, I can't believe I forgot about that. Yeah,
We can't not talk about the game without talking about that.
yeah, Barrett Hall's goal, the second one of the game that gave the Huskies the lead back just a minute and 10 seconds after Will Magnuson tied it. It was so confusing to me because, I mean, I'm not 100% well versed on the rules of the game, but like, how do you not? So, for a little bit of context, Mitch Wolf got called for a penalty, I believe, in the first period, and I think maybe it wasn't the one that the Huskies scored on. No, I think it was the one the Huskies scored on. For closing his hand around the puck. It was a delay of game penalty, and the Huskies score like, I don't know, 5 seconds into the power play. And then, a period later, this Barrett Hall throws the puck in the direction of the net. And I'm like, okay, he threw it behind his back. There's no way that he couldn't have had the puck in his possession at somehow if he's able to take it from here and get it behind his back, and then the puck propels towards the net. It didn't go in from the throwing motion, but there's no way that you can do that while keeping your hand open and just trying to bat it. Like, you have to physically grab it to wrap it around your body. So how the precedent had already been set that Mitch Wolf got called for a penalty earlier in the game for doing that exact same thing. And now this guy not only closes his hand around the puck, but tries to throw it into the net. It blew my mind. And now I don't know what the rules are with like propelling the puck towards the net. Cause like I said, that didn't make it go in. I know that if he threw it into the net, it wouldn't have counted, but it seemed really, really weird to me that goal was allowed to stand when, like you said, earlier in the game, there was already a precedent set that was a penalty for delay of game. So yeah, very frustrating. And then of course you're down 2-1 and you give up another goal, and now you got to come back in the third period, which they tried. They played pretty well in the third period, but again, I think it was just too little too late. But
yeah. Right. Well, and in those final couple minutes, it's always kind of helter-skelter in the final couple minutes when you're down a goal because you're pulling the goalie and you're doing whatever, but still felt like they really didn't. They had maybe one good shot on goal, like one where it was like truly like that was your chance and it didn't quite happen. Right. It like just missed the net. I'm trying to remember the exact who shot it, but either way, you didn't quite get what you wanted to. Either way. There's one last thing I want to talk about with men's hockey, and then we'll wrap up the show by talking about women's hockey. This is the first weekend for Bemidji State men's hockey being on Midco Sports Plus. I bought the subscription. I was like, all right, let's see what this is. Let's see what this is all about. Ian, what are your opening takeaways of Midco Sports Plus distributing? I haven't had a chance to look around the conference, but specifically Bemidji State games there's a little bit different graphics package. Outside of that, was there much difference in your mind?
Um, I don't know. The score bug is nice. I've always liked what Midco has done in that regard, but overall, I mean, it was nice. I thought it ran a lot cleaner than it did on Flow. Of course, it was a one game sample size, but I'll take where I can get it. Um, it- I'll be honest, it wasn't something that I was jumping for joy, like so much better that I was in tears about how much I loved the stream quality. But yeah, the quality was good the whole game. It never really buffered on me. I think I had one instance where I was sitting outside. We were burning some leaves and sticks that we had in the yard still, just trying to get rid of it before the snow hits inevitably, probably soon here, unfortunately. But yeah, so I was on my phone, and there was one instance where I the app just closed on me randomly, but I don't know what that was about. Or it gave me a service update like, oh, something not allowed because of your service provider. So I think I just got disconnected from the Wi-Fi for a second, which wasn't obviously Midco's fault. So I just had to refresh the app, and then I was back in. So not a huge problem at all. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I don't have anything to complain. I think the biggest thing with Flow, I think, was just always that the streams had issues. I think the broadcast themselves was always fine, like in terms of cameras and graphics and whatever, because a lot of that is controlled in-house. A lot of the cameras, a lot of where it's going, a lot of the stuff. Obviously, the play-by-play is the Beaver Radio Network, but when it comes to cameras and everything, that's a lot of students at Bemidji State in the mass communications program, or integrated media, I think is what they call it now. But I mean, we remember that, Ian. Every time you go to a class, they'd say, hey, if you want to sign up and go work hockey games, you can make some money. So it's a lot of college students that are doing it. I think they do a great job. Obviously, it's not just college students. There are some people who do a lot of great stuff leading that up and kind of ringleading, but still, that's a lot of in-house stuff that's done. But yeah, in terms of just the actual stream and keeping it connected and bandwidth and all that stuff, that's where I feel like Midco was better, and I feel like will be better. And there's just a couple of reasons for that. One, Flow Hockey had so many other, and it wasn't just Flow Hockey, it's Flow Sports is technically the name of the app. So they had so many other streams, so many other things going on. It's reasonable to assume that it would get slowed down when a lot of stuff would be going on, because of course hockey games are Friday and Saturday nights when a lot of other sports are going on. The second thing is that Midco, even though it's a smaller, infrastructure, it doesn't have quite all the amount of games and stuff like that. It still is a broadcast company, internet provider, all that stuff. And they only carry CCHA and Summit League games. So they have a vested interest in making sure that those streams run right. And that's just where I feel like the difference, not that Flow was like, the CCHA is at the bottom of the pile. There's just a lot of other people in line to get issues met. I feel like that's the biggest thing. And so, yeah, it's not a huge difference in quality, but I like it. I think it'll be a nice thing. And obviously Midco is going to offer some more stuff, I think, as it goes along. But it's just I think it was a good opening weekend for Midco sports, at least for Beaver fans. So I think you take the win when you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a comparison there for fantasy football players of like Flow and Midco, like you said, is if you play fantasy football on the Sleeper app, they developed that app for fantasy football. There's going to be a lot more customization options for your league on that app. Then you go to the ESPN app, and it's kind of just something that ESPN offers. And obviously they do hundreds of other things with their programs, and they just have an app because we're ESPN. We can't not have a fantasy football app. So they don't care as much about developing an app that has tons of customizable features. And then I think is a good comparison for the Flow and Midco sports thing, where you said, yeah, Midco is going to be a little bit more focused on this because there's not so much going on. Like you said, Flow, yeah, it was Flow Hockey that we used, but there's tons of other stuff on Flow that they have to be worried about as well. So yeah, overall, I thought it was a good opening weekend. I was pretty happy with the product. So, and then I guess we got a little bit of time here. We'll close off the show talking about women's hockey, huh?
Yeah, they hosted saying it was another home and home with St. Cloud's, or excuse me, I'm looking at I'm looking at the men's hockey schedule here. It was a home weekend where they played St. Cloud State, and of course the final game of the weekend was like a 2:00 game followed by the men's game afterwards. But overall, you got to like what the team did defensively against the 11th team in the country in St. Cloud State. You got to like that they only gave up 3 goals on the weekend. I think the thing that we're noticing, it's early in the season, but I think the thing we're noticing is this offense for Bemidji State women's hockey just hasn't quite hit their stride yet, and it's been kind of what's struggling with the team. Outside of the 8-goal let up against Ohio State to begin the season, the most goals they've let up in a game is 4. I mean, it's 3 goals, 2 goals, 4 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals. Not necessarily blow-ups like we saw at the beginning of last year, where it's like you're just down 4 at the end of the second period, and it's like, well, we're done. But I think just their offense, again, a new coach, new team, new whatever. There's a lot of new things that need to be worked out. It's not a huge indictment on the program as a whole, but the defense, I think, has been a fairly nice surprise this year, and the offense is just still taking a while to get going.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, it's got to be better. You've played some pretty good teams over the course of this season. Robert Morris, obviously, you scored 3 goals in 2 games, but you got shut out in one of those. You've been shut out in 4 out of 6 games now. And again, you're playing top 11 teams in the country for 4 of those games. But yeah, and like you said, we're 6 games in to the Amber Fricklin era. Let's not overreact, but it would be nice for these goaltenders if we could.
If you could help them out a little,
If you only give up 3 goals on the weekend and you still lose 2 games, that is a frustrating weekend of hockey, I will say. So yeah, offense could help the goalies out a little bit, but
by the way, Ian, if I'm looking at some team stats here for the season, Bemidji State has 5 goals on 132 shots. They average 0.8 goals per game, and their shot percentage right now is sitting at 3.8%. They average 22 shots per game. And when you look at the power play, they are 1 of 16. So just that they're just kind of, I mean, it's not good. It just needs to be better. I think everybody will tell you that.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not super, obviously well-versed in shooting percentage for hockey. I know what a good shooting percentage is for a basketball team. If you're shooting upwards of 55%.
Their opponents have 10.6 shot.
10.6%. Yeah, I was going to say 3% sounds low. I'm sure that's not good regardless of what the stat is. But yeah, I was like, well, how bad is 3% really? That's what I was trying to ask myself. And I think it is still pretty low. But yeah, hopefully it's something we can see improved. We've got Lindenwood this weekend at home. Another great opportunity to try to get some wins on the docket. Unfortunately, you weren't able to do that on the road against Robert Morris. Last year, you got, I believe, swept by Lindenwood, or what?
Lindenwood has typically been a pretty good women's program, if I remember right. I mean, in the series all time, Lindenwood, in the series all time, I believe, Bemidji State's 12-4 in this rivalry. So maybe I'm confusing them with another team, but the longest win streak for Bemidji State was 5 games in this rivalry from 19 to 22. However, the team lost. They got swept by Lindenwood a year ago. They're 7-1 against this team at the Sanford Center. So, hey, might be a good time to get something going.
Yeah, exactly. I believe these games will be on. I don't know. Are these games on Big Ten Plus or? It
doesn't. It's tough to tell. I want to say all
the home games should be, right. I think that they are.
I mean, if you go to, they're on Big Ten Plus. They're on Big Ten Plus.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Cause for some reason I just thought in my head, oh man, it's not a conference game though. But I was like, well, they're at home. So they'd still be on Big Ten Plus. So
yeah,
just had a little hiccup there for a second, but yeah, overall, I mean, through the first 6 games of the season, I can't say I'm super disappointed. Yeah, they're 0-6, but I mean,
what you've seen out of these games compared to what you saw out of the games just from a year ago, I think is just this team is in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, you've only given up more than 2 goals. I mean, I guess 3 times through 6 games isn't necessarily a good track record, but I mean, the men's hockey team is 0 for 3 on that metric so far. Or actually, no, they lost 3-2 in the last game. So, and 4-3. So I guess, yes, that metric they're pretty good at. Keeping teams under 3 goals. They're 50%. So that's not terrible. And 3 goals, like, yeah, they had the one game against Ohio State where they let up 8. I mean, other than that, it's 3, 2, 4, 1, and 2. And one of those goals came in overtime. So that's, an extra 5 minutes of play that they got to score an extra goal. So yeah, defensively so far, it's been pretty good. And that's good. You want to get that building block down, because then when the offense comes, like you saw last year with the men's hockey team, good things will happen. And right. I don't know that I would say a WCHA championship will happen if we get a little bit more offense from this team, but the first step has got to be getting goaltending figured out and getting defense figured out. The goals will come. You keep shooting at some point. So, not super disappointed so far, even though the team is 0-6. Hopefully, though, they can get some wins this weekend.
Yeah, good opportunity to do so. We'll see how it rolls. Ian, before we finish things up, reminder, hockey season, even though it's a bye week for men's hockey, football's back up, women's soccer's ramping up. Always a good time to check out the Discord, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Discord's been awesome so far. We've had 3 game threads for the hockey games now. And like we said, if anybody, we haven't had a ton of interest in live game threads, I don't think, so far for any other sports. But, maybe if football makes the playoffs again or soccer gets running on a tournament run, we'll throw a live game thread in there for one of those sports too. Volleyball, could be women's hockey, any of these games. It doesn't just have to be men's hockey, but we know that's like one of the more popular things around Bemidji. So that's the one we always consistently have live game threads for, even on the smaller games. But yeah, it's been fun so far. If you're not in the Discord, go join it. It's on all of our social pages. Lucas has been retweeting it. I've been retweeting it. CJ's been retweeting it. It's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. Go follow Beaver Banter on Twitter and Facebook. You'll find information there as well. Follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcasts. We're there. By the way, before we wrap up, volleyball did play a week ago on Tuesday, and we weren't able to talk about them last time we recorded. They lost in 3 sets. They then went on the road to Sioux Falls and lost in 4 sets. They do play on the 17th, which is Thursday evening. It's the Dig Pink game at the BSU Gymnasium. And then on Saturday, they go to St. Cloud State. So there's your update on volleyball. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Ian Rivers. And this has been the Beaver Banter Podcast. Roll Beavs, and we'll see you next.